Hi, kids. Mr. Taha here, and we're looking at realistic fiction lesson number 18, where we connect parts of text to the whole text to interpret meaning. And there's that word again, interpret. That is the big fourth grade skill for this unit. It's how to make meaning of books by looking at them a little bit more deeply. So, if you've ever been in a train or a subway, you only see the car that you're sitting in. You know that you're moving, but you only see your car. So if you only think about the car by itself, you might think that you're just one car moving. But it's only when you think about the entire train that you realize that you're connected to a lot of other cars in the train and the engine itself, and you're all going to the same destination together. So when you think about riding that train, you have to realize that you're part of a much larger train. Just like when we look at any part of a book, we have to remember that that part of the book is part of a much larger book, and they all fit together to make meaning out of it. Remember, an author is going to use every part of the book to say what they want to say. So we have to make sure we understand how that one part connects to the rest of the book. So today we are learning to pay attention to parts of the story and think about how they connect to other parts of the story. So when we are interpreting, readers pay attention to what sticks out, because usually if it sticks out, again, the author has made it stick out for a reason, to make us sort of pay attention to it. So let's look at one section that sticks out in the book. This section happens in the Tiger Rising, where our friend Rob leaves the hotel room or the motel room because his dad is angry about the rotten meat. And so his dad is sort of standing looking at the gun case with his, cracking his knuckles and getting really angry. Rob decides to get out of there so his dad can cool down. And he stands under the Kentucky Star sign and he starts whittling. And this is what is said in that section. I'll read it to you. He remembered that his mother had taken hold of his hand and pointed up at the sun shining through the leaves of the tree and said, "Look, Rob, I have never in my life seen a prettier color green. Ain't it perfect?" "Yes, ma'am," he said, staring at the leaves. "It looks like the original green, the first one God ever thought up." His mother squeezed his hand. "That's right," she said, "the first one God ever thought up. The first ever green. You and me, we see the world the same." Okay, so that sticks out to me, and it should stick out to you, because in the book we have never heard anything like this. Most of the Tiger Rising is sort of gloomy and talks about really kind of how bad life is and how hard Rob is struggling with things, and here's this sort of pretty moment with his mom about seeing the first ever green. So why is that there, and it sticks out, and what meaning can we make out of it? So can we make a connection between this moment and any other moment in the book? So let's think about that. Has there ever been another moment that sort of sticks out where Rob is having this sort of like peaceful, happy moment, as opposed to all the gloomy and lonely parts of the book that we're used to? And then once we understand that there's a connection, we can start to trying to figure out how that connection works and start to make sense of it. So has there ever been another part of the book where Rob wasn't so gloomy and lonely, when he was sort of happy? Think about that for a second. Well, if I think about it, I do remember there's the part where when he's running with Sistine, this happens. So I'll read this to you. He's trying, and they're running. He has just shown Sistine the tiger, and they are now running away. And he's grabbed her hand, and they're running because they hear a car coming. Sistine said, "Stop shrugging your shoulders at me. I hate it. I hate the way you shrug all the time." And that made Rob remember Willie Mae saying that when he shrugs, he looks like a skinny bird trying to fly. It struck him as funny now. He laughed out loud at the thought of it, and without asking him what he was laughing about, without dropping his hand, without stopping, Sistine laughed too. Then Rob remembered the name of the feeling that was pushing up inside him, filling him full to overflowing. It was happiness. That was what it was called. So here's another moment where Rob is happy. He remembers something. He remembers Willie Mae talking about his shrugging, and he remembers, and he's obviously with Sistine, and they start laughing together. So now we have two things where they kind of stick out, but then they kind of connect. Rob is happy while talking to his mom about the color of the leaves. Rob is happy while running with Sistine and thinking about the way he shrugs. So, what do we learn about this? What can these two things teach us, that those two things are together? So when we interpret, we think about what we can learn from this. What do we learn about Rob or the book or just life in general when we think about how these two moments are connected? You think about that for a moment. How are these two things connected? Well, if I really think hard about how these two things connected, I realize that Rob is happy when he's with somebody who gets him, right? Someone who understands him. I don't think he's got a lot of those people. When you look at how his dad treats him, and how the principal treats him, and his teacher treats him, he doesn't seem like a lot of people understand him. And here he is with two people that get him, and he gets happy there. So I guess if I had to learn something from that, what Kate DiCamillo might be trying to tell me is that, it's not so lonely when you're with somebody who gets you, who understands you. So you see what I'm doing there is I'm interpreting these two moments to make meaning of them, to learn from them, so that way I can kind of understand the world a bit better and the book a bit better. So when you are looking at books, pay attention to these things. Pay attention to the characters and the setting and the important objects or the things that might be repeated. Think about the events that occur. And of course, in this particular case, think about the mood or the feelings of that section, whether they're happy or they're sad, and if they stick out. And then we can decide if these parts connect to each other and they stick together in some way to help us make meaning of the book. So when you go and look at your reading responses, try to find and pay attention to a passage that pops out to you as being slightly different, and then see if you can connect it to other moments in the book that pop out in the same way. And that's how you're going to increase your interpretive work, the work that makes meaning of things, by asking yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I learn about the characters, the book, or even life itself by just looking at these events and seeing how they're connected? It's some big work for fourth graders, but I know you can do it. So until next time, I'm Mr. Ta.